I'll tell you a story. It's an old story that comes from Japan. So two very proficient samurais begin to fight, and one of them has a son, and he's sitting back and watching this whole thing. He's very, very young. And then he sees his father being butchered by this other samurai. And the son loves his father, so he begins to cry and cry and cry. And when his weeping is done, he looks at his mother, and his mother is weeping. And to no end, she weeps every single day. And the son one day looks himself in the mirror and says, I'm going to be a samurai. I'm going to be the best swordsman that this country has ever seen. And then I'm going to find the man who killed my father, and I'm going to exact revenge. And the mother is very, very, very happy. So he spends the next 20 years of his life becoming really good, and he becomes awesome. And then he goes on this quest, finding this other samurai, and eventually he does. By this time, the samurai who was once 30 is now 70. He's old, he's weak, and the kid, this young man, goes to him and says, do you recognize me? He says, yes, I killed your father some 20, 30 years ago. You're here to chop off my head, yes? Yeah, you destroyed my life. He says, okay, I'm ready. If you want to kill me, fine. Just one thing though. What is it? I've been living on the mountaintop for all these years, and every day I create this path, remove the rocks so that when peasants are climbing this hill to get some water, to get some flowers, to get some wheat, they don't fall to their deaths. Can you just wait until I remove the path or pave the path, clear the path? And then once I'm done, then you can kill me. Fine, the kid says. So every day he sits and watches this old man going back and forth, clearing the road. And one day this kid says, maybe I should just help out this old man. And he does. I don't know how it happens that all of a sudden revenge goes away and is replaced with empathy and kindness and generosity. And the kid begins to help this old man every single day. And then after a few months, the road is cleared. And then the old man kneels before this young man and says, I'm ready. And the young kid says, how can I kill a man who's taught me what the value of life is? And they become friends. In other words, he becomes a replacement of his father. You spend so many of your years simmering in anger and hate and revenge. And then you spend some more of your years in the exact opposite set of emotions, compassion and generosity and forgiveness. And little by little, as one seed grows, the other seed shrinks. You enter someone's domain with a good amount of anger and hate. As time is spent, as intimacy is formed, you realize that for some strange reason, as muhabbat kharha gul mi shabad, as muhabbat geriye khande mi shabad, that love has the power to replace thorns with flowers and tears with laughter or joy. And you realize the only way that anyone can protect any seed worth protecting is by spending a good amount of time in the proper spaces. In other words, if you want to quit smoking, and it's something you've done for the past like 5 years, it's a seed that has a tremendous amount of space inside you. A good amount of your life revolves around that particular addiction. Now you want to change it. Well, your father hates smoking, let's just say. Just in case you get a call, stop smoking. Well, that's a call. And the problem with this call is that it births a brand new self inside you. It's a tiny self. You're getting older, uglier, smellier. Do you really want to keep smoking for the next 20, 30, 40 years? Sober up a little bit. Mature up, grow up. But this new seed has zero power to withstand the force of 20 years of addiction. And if you're ready, and if you're insightful, and if you're cunning, you say, the only person who is able to protect this call is my father. I don't like him that much because every time I talk about smoking, do smoking, he harasses me, punishes me, if not physically, intellectually, emotionally, and I hate that. But you also have come to realize maybe this particular punishment is good for you. It'll save, protect your future. So you spend more time with your father as he punishes you every time he sees you daydreaming about smoking, he slaps you. But you also realize something interesting. Shub muallim gul ast har ke nakhorat khul ast. That the punishment given to you through your father is an extension of his compassion, not hate, compassion. He cares for your future. He wants you to get married, have children. He wants to be a grandfather. He wants to hang out with his grandkids. And so what your father will do, given that he's a very, very smart man, he calls you one day and he's coughing. He's acting. He's not really sick. He says, I have to build this shed. It's too much on my back and my knees. Can you help me? He says, Dad, we're just going to go out there and smoke. But okay, I'll come help you. I'll smoke afterwards. And then he'll give you a nail gun. You say, what the hell is this? And he'll teach you. And all of a sudden, it's a nail gun. Wow, this is beautiful. He'll give you this miter saw, sliding miter saw, and you begin to cut 2x4s and 4x4s and 8x4s. You love it. And then you, little by little piece, just lumber together and you have this beautiful shed. And while you were making the shed, you weren't thinking about smoking at all. Nothing. And then usually you go home, you take a shower, you rest, you smoke, and then you fall asleep. And this time you say, Dad, can I just stay over? Yeah, but you can't smoke. I don't want to smoke, I just want to stay over so in the morning I can wake up at 5 in the morning and start the shed again. Great. And your father's a healthy man, but because he knows how easily you'll be tempted, he'll just walk like this. That'll make you feel sad for him. He'll say, instead of going home, I'll just stay here, cook for him, clean for him, and build a shed. And every time you say, Dad, the shed is done, let's put some solar panels on it. Okay. If at the beginning you did this with a good amount of grunts and groans and hate, now you love it. Not only do you love fixing this shed, but you also love the fact that you're helping out your father, that he can go into the shed and live in comfort. And when the solar panel is done, remember, you're still, this temptation is always there. He says, why don't we build a deck around the shed? Yeah. And as time goes on and as the shed all of a sudden becomes a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, a second story, third story, goes all the way up to the heavens. You realize the only thing you think about now are nail guns and saws and 2x4s and how you can go to Home Depot and just pocket things without paying for them, which is something that I do. And you realize something really interesting. After 5 or 6 years of being around your father and working with the shed, you realize that you can actually enjoy life without being high. Being around your father, building a shed, will give you a high that smoking will never be able to give you. That's how you protect the seed. Now, you wouldn't know how to do it on your own. It's impossible. You need someone from the outside, cunning enough to coerce you, manipulate you, dare I say, brainwash you, take away your life and give you a different one and protect it. But here's the thing. Anyone who wants to do good to you is never going to push you into anything you're not ready for. They will always, always, always ask your permission. Maybe initially they push a little, but then they sit back because you have tasted something. That taste has been burnt in your brain, in your memory bank. Once in a while it comes up and says, you should do more, you can do more. And that's enough. That's like the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Once in a while it's going to come up and bite you. Now you have a couple of options. You can play with it a little and then dismiss it. You can play with it a little and then allow it to be forgotten. Or you can pursue it. In the pursuit of a call, there is going to be this tremendous imbalance. In other words, you're Malcolm, the follower of Elijah Muhammad. You're also a Malcolm who has a life prior to meeting Elijah Muhammad. They're both seeds. And given the social structure, given how vulturous, how horrific it is, you're going to say it's much better to be the Malcolm from the age 5 to 25. Because love ain't going to get me much in this society. And neither is forgiveness. Neither is compassion. They suck. At the same time, you can't resist the love that you have tasted given to you by Reginald and Elijah. Now these two lives begin to compete. The more he reads the Quran, the dimmer Malcolm becomes, the old Malcolm. The more he thinks, he nourishes it, protects it with his imagination, with his reflection, with the emotions connected to the Quran. And a new Malcolm. This old Malcolm slowly goes away. And then of course, he meets Elijah. And this brand new Malcolm explodes. And this other Malcolm is completely annihilated, deleted. He understands the past. He understands society. In fact, the new Malcolm goes back and visits the friends of the old Malcolm to rescue them. You can't protect anything without investing time and energy. And because you're a student and because you're a novice, you can't do it on your own. Someone from the outside. Now, here's the other problem. Western societies, in particular America, you don't have a narrative that revolves around a love relationship between the student and the teacher. You have a lot of David Korushes. You have a lot of UFO people. You have a lot of Elizabeth Prophet centered. You have a lot of Scientology centered. Because in a teacher-student relationship, there is going to be a good amount of manipulation. And manipulation really is kind of like this. You're sitting, life is boring, you smoke. You manipulate your brain chemistry. And in coercing the brain chemistry, you have a different perspective about life now that you're high. Teachers are no different. Teachers also change your brain chemistry. They create emotions. They create certain aspects of reflection. They create a new you. But what happens, the assumption is, well, you're not going to be addicted to weed, but you are. But the moment you say, I'm now addicted to a teacher, all of a sudden comes this American philosophy of independence, autonomy, manipulation, coercion. We don't have those things in the East. So in India, for example, you in fact have over 250 books that teach you how to sit in the presence of your teacher appropriately. So when you look at, for example, someone in India, in the presence of their teacher, they throw flowers, they bow, they weep, they do all sorts of things. And you say, what the hell is this? Well, they're very lucky in the sense that they have found someone they can worship down here. And it's not easy. I mean, when you and I fall in love, romantic love, you have found someone to pray to worship, to sacrifice yourself for. It lasts for about 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. We do it and we like it. Because in love, what happens, you forget yourself, you forget your desires, you forget your past. You're there to please another. You become a sacrificial lamb. And in love, you find your freedom. And freedom from what? Freedom from all the shit that happens to us on a daily basis, all the boundaries created inside us by our own psyche as well as social pressures. You need money, but you call in and say, I'm sick, I can't make it. با درد بساز چون دوای تو منم با کس منشین که آشنای تو منم گر کشته شدی مگو که من کشته شدم شکرانه بده که خونبهای تو منم. There are some pains, there are some yearnings and longings and some reflections that cause a good amount of discomfort. We are not creatures, as I've said many times, that welcome pain. We like things that give us a good amount of joy and happiness and pleasure. And this poem by Abu Sa'id Abu Khair, one of the great saints, Sufis that the Middle East has ever produced. If you wake up one morning and you say, what am I doing with my life? It's going to be a painful few minutes. Become intimate with it. Live with it. It's going to make a mess of your life. But just live with the pain. It is a companion who's never going to leave you. Your boyfriend will leave you. Your kids will die. Your parents will die. But the question of who am I? What am I? How should I use my time? These questions will never leave you. They're there from the moment you're born until you take your last breath. And Abu Sa'id says, since these friends, these pains are never going to leave you, be their roommates, host them. They're not guests. And if you're able to become good friends with them, they will reveal themselves to you. And in their revelation, you will find aspects of yourself you have always longed to see. They will give you the answers. And that's how you protect any seed. You spend a good amount of time with them, even though they may be painful.